right. Well, welcome everybody. It is Monday, July 22nd, and we will get started. We are right on time. So welcome, welcome. So let's see, what are we doing today? We are going to be looking at an eightplex in New Westminster. And if you don't know where that is absolutely fine. I didn't quite know where that was either until I actually went and actually walked through the place. So let me get right into it. Now, just a bit of a disclaimer before I get going on this analysis is please do your own due diligence on it. Talk to the agents, your agent, make sure you get all the numbers, make sure the opportunity works for you. Okay, so let's go right into the share screen and let me just walk you through quickly about this lovely property here. Okay, so here we go. All right. So on the share screen, you should see the realtor.ca. So this is the property here. It's just over $2 million. And here's the address here. So it's available as of this moment, as far as I know. Okay. And just look how beautiful it is. It's like, it looks very heritage, but it's not a heritage home. It's protected. Okay. So it's a slightly different classification. It's 8 units. So let's just see. So it's 8 units. Each unit is self-contained with its own entrance, kitchen, and bathroom. So I walked through this property because I was like, hey, eightplex just outside of downtown Vancouver. So this is like a 30-minute drive from downtown. So, you can't really get an eightplex for $2 million, right? So I was like, okay, let me go check it out because if it's a great deal, then I want to be able to put an offer in. Okay, so let me just stop right here and just say, okay, the reason why I'm going through this is to just share my journey in real estate, but also to help other investors, other accredited investors make sound decisions with their purchases, especially in real estate. Okay, so keep in mind, yeah, you definitely want to go and talk to other people about this before you put in an offer or buy a similar type of property. So this is the property here. Okay, like I usually just look at the pictures a little bit, but I don't spend too long looking at the pictures because at the end of the day, it's really the numbers that have to make sense. So let's go through that. So this is the property here. It's asking just over 2. Built in 1912. So keep that in mind as you're going through the numbers with me. It's over 100 years old. Okay, now the building itself was in great shape, but it's 100 years, like over 100 years old. This leads to a lot of issues with financing. Okay, you can get an appraisal and the appraisal can come in higher, but at the end of the day, the insurance and the financing is a big component of this. This 536 days, that's misleading. There's been a bunch of offers on this property. It went off the market to do the closing on it, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. So that's why it says 536 days, but it's actually gone through a couple of offers already. Okay, the square footage is just under 5,000 square feet for the living space. That's fantastic, and it's zoned RS1. Okay, so this location is very central, like it's walking distance to a great mall, walking distance to all the amenities. It's on the transit system. Now, one of the challenges with this property is that it's not within the, because it's already 8 units, you can't add more units, okay? So keep that in mind as well while we're going through this, because one of the things that I always look for when I'm running through these analysis is what's the value add? What else can I do to increase the income? What else can I do to, to increase the highest use possible, okay? So really this building is already at its highest use possible. You could, there's a garage, so you could fix the garage, maybe, rent it out on RV pads or something. But then, how are you going to get the RVs back into the laneway that is super tight? And then if you're doing something like that, if it's not zoned properly for it, your neighbors could complain potentially, right? And have some issues there. Okay, so now let's unshare and we will go right into the Excel sheet. So that was the realtor listing. So I came across this listing about 6 months ago. And the only reason why I found out about it afterwards, like now, is because the agent, because the last offer didn't go through. And so the agent reached out to me and said, hey, Huong, the property's back on. So let's walk through the analysis here. Okay, so I've made the sheet a little bit bigger so that everybody can see, especially for those of us getting older. All right, so yeah, so I'm putting in the offer price, or the asking price, just because I want to make sure that the numbers work and then adjust it accordingly. So here are the rents on all of the units. And so right now, this is my work. Okay, so this is my worst case scenario, because that's actually what we're seeing with the rents. Now, some of this, like on this one here with the 950, I found out that the owners have actually adjusted the rent up. So they've been able to get like another $120 for this unit per month. So that's fantastic. So here's the laundry, the parking. So the monthly rental income is just around 9,000. Now, while I was running this, I realized, oh, that doesn't actually make sense. That's actually for the year. So that actually makes a huge difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump the 960 here in the 1,800. Those are annual numbers, okay? And it was really interesting because I didn't clue into that until last night when I was still running through the analysis, right? So really the monthly income is just over 700,000. Sorry, $7,000 per month. So the annual income is around 87,000. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these numbers here. Okay, because what I want to show you is what that affects, like how that affects the DSR. Okay, so when I go and I try to get a mortgage on this, well, look at this. It's not going to work, right? Because the banks, the lenders, CMHC is going to look at this and say, hey, Huong, we want a minimum of 1.1 DSR, or we want 1.25. I'm at 0.83. It's not going to work. Okay. So this is where I need to go and run the analysis to say, okay, well, where can I improve it to get this DSR closer to the 1.1, 1.2? Okay. Now I've also put in my best rent possible. Okay. And so this is a calculation based on what the market rents are from other places that I know in the area, and just calculating based on the square footage of each of the units. And so that's how I get this best rate. And so the mid rate is just the middle range of the best and the worst, saying, okay, well, if I can't get the best, but I'm doing better than my worst, what is that income? Okay, so as you can see here, from the worst case, which is what we're currently facing now, just 7,500. If I was to get all 8 units vacant and rent them out at the best possible rates, rents, I would be closer to $10,000 a month. That's like 2,500 difference there. That's huge. Okay. So now, even with this though, I'm not at the 1.1. Okay. So now this is where I now need to look at the expenses. So these are the current expenses here. And I like to put in a lot of buffers. Okay. And you can argue and be like, Huong, you know what, you're putting in so many buffers that your deal isn't going to work. Okay, well, that's not the case, because there are many opportunities where the deals still make sense even with all the buffers in. Okay, I would rather have more buffers in and have the numbers not work, walk away from an opportunity, than to be stuck in a negative cash flowing opportunity for a few years. Okay, that to me is like one of the worst situations you can be in real estate, is having negative cash flow. Okay, so we'll touch on that too in a little bit. Okay, so here I've got 8% for property management. And so I usually run this at 10, because even though I self-manage some of my own properties, I want the option to hire somebody else to manage it for me. So in this case, I put 8 because I've been playing around with the numbers to try and see if it would improve. I've got 10% repairs, 5% for vacancy allowance. So in Vancouver, there's no, like, it's very low vacancy, but you still need to account for some vacancies. CMHC or some of the lenders, they will run it at 3, 5, 6%. So you want to at least have something for vacancy. Like, it's not a legitimate argument to say there's no vacancy. Okay, because at some point you will get some vacancy. Let's see here. So the utilities, this is actual $17,000 a year just for utilities. This is super high. Okay, taxes are 7,000. Okay, so in total here, oh, and then I've got this 5% buffer. That would be for accountants, legals, bookkeeper, snow removal, garbage removal, any pest control, okay? Anything that I'm not breaking down into here. I just want a number in here just so that I can make a quick decision. Hey, do I even want to continue looking at this? So this one here, just with this, I'm at a 70% expense ratio. This is huge. Like that's why the numbers don't work, because it's at 70%. Okay, for an older building, yes, it's going to cost you a little bit more to operate it, but it shouldn't be 70%. And so I thought, okay, well, you know what? It should be closer to maybe 40, 45%. So let's figure out where I can cut the expenses. Like where can I, as an investor, save on the expenses? Which is why I went for the walkthrough, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something I'm missing here, because 70% expense ratio is insane. Okay, so then what I did was I said, okay, well, maybe we can get all the, like, maybe the tenants are not on their own hydro, right? It's an older building, so maybe they didn't do it. And so if I can get the 17,000 to the tenants, that's a huge savings right there. Okay, the taxes, like, you can't really break that down. The insurance is what it is, right? So, okay, so let's keep going here, because I'm like, okay, well, 70% expenses, maybe I can save that. Okay, so now here is the financing on this property. So I'm putting in a 50% down payment, okay, and getting a balance with a VTB. Okay, so I'm putting a placeholder in here as a negotiation tool with the potential seller. They flat out already said, no, we would not entertain a VTB. Okay, so now maybe the situations change, especially after 500 days on the market. Okay, so at 5% interest rate, okay, I am looking at a debt service ratio of $5,000 a month. That means I'm negative cash flow almost 3,000 a month. That's big. Like, this is somebody's full-time job, right? So for me, this was a huge no-no. Okay, so now if you look at cap rates, so for me, this is usually where I would stop and, you know, try to figure out some other things or look at another property and just move on from here. So now if you like to look at cap rates, I, for the longest time, never looked at cap rates, because it didn't matter. Like, if the number was negative, it didn't matter, right? So now I am starting to look at cap rates, because I'm realizing that that's how real estate investors talk. Okay, so I want to make sure that I talk the same way as everybody else. So based on the numbers right now, we're at a 1.27% cap rate. Okay, in Vancouver, maybe 3.5, you know, 3% would be the cap rate. So these guys are out to lunch on their numbers here. Okay, so really the true value of this building, if I put a 3.5% cap rate, it's around 800,000. Okay, now the land value on this, it's assessed at 2 million. Okay, so if you pull the BC land assessment, it's worth 2 million. So you're basically buying this for land value. Okay, but now here's the thing though, you could pay 2 million for this. You can tear down the building, okay, and then build a newer building, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to build. Like, it's in upwards of like 1.5 million to build. Okay, so now you could do that and get the new city bylaw potentially up to 5-6 units. Okay, if the space allows you to, but you're not going to get this much square footage anymore. Or where's the building here? The 5,000 square feet, because there's restrictions now on how big, like how much easements you need around the property and so forth like that. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the reason why I was really interested in this property to start off with is because it was 262,000 a unit, which is cheap in Vancouver. Usually you're looking at around 400,000, 450 and higher for a unit. And so these are significantly less. So now the reason why it's less though, look at some of these square footage size. Okay. One of the things that I look at when I'm looking for a value add strategy is potentially to say, are the units big enough that I could potentially add in an additional bedroom? So taking a 1 bedroom, like if it's a large 1 bedroom, making it into 2 bedroom suites, right? Because then you could charge a little bit more and the cost of renovating that isn't significant. Okay. So here the units are super, super small. You're not going to be able to do anything with them. Okay. So yeah, if you're looking at the numbers right now and you're seeing 250, that is not an error. That is actual square footage of those units. Okay. So here is some of my notes here. Okay. So the value add potentially is the rental increase. Now in Vancouver, okay, in BC, we're restricted by the percentage of annual increases we can do. I think it's 2 or 2.5% for next year. Okay, it's not like Alberta where people can, like, if people move out, you can bump the rent to whatever the market rent is. Okay, in Vancouver, you have to wait until they move out before you could bump it up. Okay, so this means that I've got somebody in there at like $585. Okay. I can't bump that up to like $800 in 6 months. I have to like actually wait for them to move out, which is insane. Okay. So the separate hydro was another possibility. No, each unit already is separated and each unit is already paying their own hydro. Okay. So that 17,000 is part of the owner's expense. Oh, so I just want to mention back about this rental increase. This rental increase is one strategy, but I, as a landlord, don't want to be relying on just rental increases to make the numbers work. Like there's got to be a better play than that. Okay, so charging for storage, you know what? You charge for storage, we're talking maybe, $25, $50 a month. At the end of the day, it's not going to be enough to move the needle. That's the thing, right? So yes, you could charge for storage and yes, it will help, but you need something bigger than that to have the value add. So like adding another unit and charging $1,000 a month, right? Adding another floor, okay? Like something else that you could do. Okay, so one of the things I was thinking about was maybe stratifying the units, like buying it and then selling the units back to the tenants, or having them move because now I'm going to sell the units as a condo. Can't do it. 250, nobody's going to get financing for that. Okay, so usually the financing starts around 400, maybe 450, 500 for square feet. A lot of the banks will not lend on anything less than 400 square feet. Okay, so that means the individuals would have to come in with actual cash or have access to cash to be able to do that. And so that is like an idea that once I thought through it, I'm like, nah, it's not going to work. Okay. And, commercial financing, CMHC, the MLI won't work. A lot of the commercial lending will not work on this building because it's so old. Okay. Now, you could put in 100% financing. Okay. So, in this case, I ran it at 50%. So that means I'm putting in $1 million. Okay. So I have to physically have $1 million or bring in my investor pool and have $1 million and sit on it. At this point, if you're doing that, it's an equity play. It is not a cash flow play. Okay. Because even with $1 million in, we're in negative cash flow. Okay. So now if we went up to, let's say 75% here, so that means we're putting in $1.5 million. And we're basically just breaking even here. Like we're making 50 cents. Like that is not worth the headaches. Okay. So yeah, at this point, I was just like, yeah, okay. So now I was thinking here as well, what if I was to get all the units vacant? Would I then be cash flowing enough to make this opportunity work? So that's where I ran these numbers here. So let me make this bigger here and you could see, right? And it's really easy. Like once you have a spreadsheet set up, you can just copy and paste the spreadsheet and just modify the numbers. So here I'm running it with 100% vacant, meaning that it's the seller's problem, okay, to get rid of all the tenants. And I'm going to just start afresh, okay? So here I've put in the best case scenario for all the rents. I've updated the laundry and the parking. So now I'm at just over $9,000 in rental income, which is fantastic. Okay, so I've got all the expenses in here. I haven't made any changes to the expenses. Okay, so look at that. So now instead of 67% for expense ratio, I've knocked off 7% because it's just based on the income, right? So now that takes me down to about 61%. Okay, so now here, I am still negative cash flowing by $1,500, $1,400 a month. That to me is a big loss per month. It's not worth, going into this property unless there's some value add or some thing that I can do within a year or two, maybe 3 at the most, to turn this property around to be positive cash flowing. Okay, so what else can oh, yeah, so if you're watching this and you're like, Hong, what about this idea? What about that idea? Please reach out to me. Let me know if you've got another way to add value add to this property. Okay, I'm still learning on my journey, so I don't know everything that there is to know. So I would welcome some feedback on that, please. If you have an idea that would make this project work, this is not the first time I've run into an 8-plex at $2 million. Okay, so if this property doesn't work, then on the next one, knowing what you know, help me out and I will be able to make that work. Okay, so let's see here. So what else can I tell you about this property? All right, so yes. Okay, so I've got my notes here. Yeah, so not cash flowing. Okay. Okay. So here's the one thing that I want to point out here. When I do real estate, one of the things that I like to do is make sure that I'm camping, okay, like physically going camping. And right now we're on beautiful Cortez Island, and we're really, really lucky to be 5 minutes from the beach, and we're basically going to hang out every day at the beach, not harvesting clams because apparently it's dangerous right now with the heat wave going on. So we love to go camping, and so we're doing this luxury camping right now in a home. Okay, so camping, CAMPING. Okay, so like with the tents. Okay, so camping is cash flow. What is it? Appreciation, mortgage pay down. Okay, so that's the MP. Increasing net worth for generations. So I'm bringing that up because this property does not have cash flow. It does have appreciation, so that's why it's an equity play. Okay, if you were to buy this and just put in $1 million, 1.5, 2 million, you could sit on this and make a good, healthy return just from the appreciation alone. Okay, now the thing is though, in order to have mortgage pay down, you need a mortgage. Okay, and one of the benefits of having tenants is that they're paying your mortgage down. So if you don't have a mortgage, your tenants are paying their rent, that's going to cover the expenses. There's no mortgage pay down on that. So you're actually not getting the third benefit of buying real estate, which is your tenants paying your mortgage down through the mortgage, rents paying the mortgage. Okay, so you need to have a mortgage to have mortgage pay down, and that contributes to your return on investment, right? So in this case, you're tying up $1 to $2 million and there's barely any cash flow. So now what you're doing is you're really just making the appreciation on this property. Okay, which we know in Vancouver is huge. Like some of the properties in the past we've looked at and it was like 10% appreciation, 15% appreciation. Okay, so so you definitely want to make sure that you have the mortgage pay down as part of your return on investment. Okay, I think I've really talked this opportunity like to death here. Okay, so let's go right into, okay, so I want to bring up this question that came up from a couple of the calls that I've had over the last couple of weeks with fellow investors. And I would say these individuals are more new than experienced investors just because of the questions that were coming to me and the conversation that we were having. Okay. And this was around doing flips right now in this economy. Like, do flips happen? Okay, so it's not do flips happen. Yes, they definitely do happen, but are they profitable now? Okay. And so I just want to put a word of caution out there around flips. If you are new to flipping, please watch the 5-part Flip for Income series that I have available on YouTube. Okay, it doesn't cost you anything to watch that. Maybe your 5 hours of time. Okay, but you will learn the Flipping for Income by Danielle, who's a professional flipper out of Hamilton. Okay, and if she can do flipping and break it down, it took us 5 videos to be able to break it down. She was able to really make it in Hamilton, Ontario with flipping. And so if you're new to flipping or like just have less than 20 flips under your belt, watch the series. Okay, I'll put the links in, because here's the thing. There are 3 ways to lose money in flips. And right now, the economy with the way it is, you have a higher chance of losing on a flip. Okay, we are in the aftermath of post-COVID. Like, for a lot of people who are not in real estate, you think real estate is over. Okay, no, so sorry, you think COVID is over. Okay, but for us in real estate investors, we're getting the aftermath of COVID right now. Okay, in the last year and a half, we are seeing a lot of default rates. We're seeing a lot of flips not working. We're seeing so many other things that have come up that makes certain strategies within real estate not work. Flipping is one of those strategies right now that is really tough to make work. So if you are in a flip and you've been able to make it work, fantastic. Good for you. Okay. But the majority of the flippers right now are finding it very hard. And so you need to have an alternative strategy. And part of that alternative strategy is, maybe, are you able to refinance and hold on to it? Can you sell it and take a loss and at least break even? Okay. So a couple of things to consider when you're flipping and doing sort of new development, because a lot of the flips right now need to have that value add. Okay. In the past, like especially properties in Vancouver, you could sit on the property and have a 3-month delay or 6-month delay. And that was really okay because the appreciation was still going. It was still working for you. So like, for example, one of my Toronto properties, we did an appraisal last year and it was just over $1 million. And my agent was saying, Huong, you know what? If we did the appraisal today, it probably would have gone up by about 100,000 to 150,000. So really, it's like a 10 to 15% increase in appreciation if you think about that. So, which is great news for me, right? But the thing is, though, if you are doing a flip in an area where the appreciation is not shooting up like that, then really you want to make sure that you finish your renovations very quickly so that you could offload that property, which is your original plan, or you could refinance it and get tenants in there to hold you over for a year or 2 until the markets pick up. Okay, so that was in sort of like a couple years ago when it was okay to have these delays. Now with the market the way it is, it's not okay to have those delays because now the cost of borrowing is higher. Like, private lends are anywhere from 12 to 15 plus fees of 4 to 10% on fees. So really, your cost of borrowing has gone up double, right? Which a lot of us have seen just from the variable rates. Okay, so I am done talking today about flips and eightplexes and and I did not mean to say that real estate is dead. Okay, not one bit. Okay, that was a big what do you call that when you say something and it just came out and it was not what you intended to say? Okay, so one last thing. Okay, so I want to do a big shout out to Fred, who is the owner of this beautiful house that I'm in. We we're able to secure this for the summer, and it's beautiful on Cortez Island, a couple minute walks from the beach. And it's just been amazing to connect back with the island here where we were for most of COVID. So, so thank you, Fred. Yeah, from the bottom of my heart, this makes it so much easier for me to continue to do my work over the summer and share my real estate knowledge and everything by having secure internet. Okay, thank you, Fred. Okay, so that is it for today. I will see everybody next Monday. Okay, bye, everybody.